Now, perhaps it shouldn't be that surprising that the 49ers beat the Packers in the NFC Championship game. I am not surprised. I certainly don't think 49ers fans are surprised. Casual football observers aren't surprised. Fans of other NFL teams aren't surprised. And realistically, a lot of Packers fans probably aren't that surprised. Because I think we knew heading into this game, or at least I have all year, talking about this team. Well, I hate using the word fraud for a 13-3 team. Kind of reminds me of the 2001 Bears a little bit, where they were 13-3, but they got every single lucky break to go their way, and they did all the gadgets and the tricks, and everything went perfectly. And then they lost in their first playoff game in the divisional round once Jim Miller went down because Hugh Douglas landed on top of him. But in terms of this Packers team, like I never really felt like this was a great team. Like a good team that was relatively well coached, taking advantage of their circumstance and situation, winning some close games, but never really truly a team that I took seriously to be a real Super Bowl contender. Which, ironically enough, for the 49ers, I kind of always had been waiting for the other shoe to drop this year because, as great as their defense was, I just wasn't as sold on their offense, even though they have a pretty good play caller, obviously, in Kyle Shanahan. And they've got George Kittle, who's a stud. They made the move for Emmanuel Sanders, certainly helps. Debo Samuel starting to come in his own. But just still, like, and I don't want to say it was solely a anti-Jimmy G bias. It's just, this is a team that was not that good the past couple of years, and all of a sudden they've kind of come out of nowhere, and now they're 13-3. But I certainly believed in the formula of the 49ers more than I did the Packers. What surprises me is just how striking the difference was. Like in this game, there was no doubt that the 49ers were easily, vastly the superior team. The Packers got the crap kicked out of them. They were made into squeezy cheese. And I certainly enjoy every minute of that. The game itself was pretty boring. And for the Bears fans that are saying, well, it's always fun to see their Packers get their teeth kicked in. Maybe. But it's kind of like if you're a fan of the Vikings, or, well, let's not say the Vikings, because the Vikings actually contend a little more often. But if you're a fan of the Bears, like at this point in time, yeah, you could say the Packers are where you want to be. The Packers are who you wanted to be for the past couple of decades. But the Packers are so out of the realm of realism and possibility. Like, we're not even in the same stratosphere as the Green Bay Packers. Why are we so obsessed with them and so concerned with them? It's almost kind of loser talk a little bit. Let's talk about the Bears, so there's plenty of loser talk to go around. But the way this game just went from the very jump, like, from get-go, the 49ers with Raheem Mostert, former Bear, who was spectacular, they just pounded the ball and pounded the ball and pounded the ball down the Packers' throats. And it was so striking how the Packers just could never figure out how to stop the damn running game of the 49ers. Like, you're already going up against a really good defensive unit. You would think, in theory, that you would stack the box and do everything you can, and frankly, want to put the game in Jimmy G's hands, and if the quarterback beats you, then the quarterback beats you. But the most foolish and embarrassing and silly way to lose a game like that is to have somebody like a Raheem Mostert run for over 200-something yards on you. Like, they just never figured it out. Never. Just fantastically amazing. But from the early jump, it was just obvious that the 49ers were in an entirely different league than the Packers. It was obvious on offense that when you look at the skill position players, in particular around Aaron Rodgers, the lack of speed on this offense was striking. The lack of skill outside of Devontae Adams was striking. That pick that they wasted on Gary. Imagine if somehow, some way, even if you said they took Darnell Savage at pick 12, if they would have turned around and taken a DK Metcalf at 21, and traded up to get him there, or stayed where they were at and took an A.J. Brown, or stayed where they were at and take a DK Metcalf. You have to wonder how much different the dynamic of this game would have been. Probably not enough for the Packers to beat the 49ers, but who knows? But they just didn't have enough, and it was so clear to see. And You know, it's crazy to me. It's because I'm going to have plenty of 49ers fans, and understandably so to a degree, that are going to bash on me and talk crap to me because Jimmy G made the Super Bowl. Everything you said about Jimmy G was wrong. For crying out loud, the dude threw the ball 8 times in the NFC Championship game. Get real. In 2 playoff games, he's thrown for just over 200 yards. You say, well, that's game manager. I say game manager by my foot. He's just handing the ball off. And some might say taking the Bob Greasy path to the Hall of Fame. And a touche. Not that far off. That's not a knock. I mean, part of a team that won 2 straight playoff games against inferior NFC North competition, and he didn't have to do a lot. And he didn't. In the few opportunities he didn't undercut the team. He didn't shoot the team in the foot or anything like that. It's a perfect example of being able to hide your quarterback, not because you think the guy can't play, but just because you don't need to take the chance. There's no reason. There was no reason against the Minnesota Vikings because they couldn't stop Tevin Coleman and Raheem Mostert. And now you come into this game against the Packers, and the Packers never figured out how to stop Mostert on the ground, even after Tevin Coleman went down with the freaking shoulder injury. So why would you throw? You know, and it's kind of the whole thing about quarterback wins. Are they a real stat or not? Like, how much credit do you give a guy that threw 8 passes in a game when he's not even calling the plays? Like, I mean, let's just be real here. If Jimmy G goes into the Super Bowl and plays at a similar level to Patrick Mahomes and the 49ers win, then please, by all means, I deserve it at that point. I deserve to be exposed on freezing cold takes and bad takes exposed and everything like that. Absolutely do. And I'll eat it and I'll own it, unlike a lot of you C suckers out there who won't. But let's get real here. The keys to success for the 49ers were that phenomenal defense, that outstanding front four, just freaking incredible, and that fantastic running game that they have. That's what got them there. Almost kind of like the 85 Bears in a little bit. And settle down, Bears fans. Settle down, Bears fans. I'm not saying they're as good as the 85 Bears. I'm talking about the formula. Like a front four that can get after it, a relentless pass rush. Talent all over the place on defense. A running game that is top-notch. And especially the Niners right now, it's getting top-notch when it matters. And then a quarterback, if he's healthy and he has a pulse and he can make a couple plays here and there, you know, you can win it all with that formula. It's what the Bears did in 85 with Bam. It was one of the healthiest seasons he ever had. It's the one time he was actually healthy once you got to the playoffs. And as a result, the Bears won the Super Bowl that year. The San Francisco team certainly has a chance against the Kansas City Chiefs. It cannot be dismissed. It's a fascinating, fascinating matchup to look ahead to in a couple of weeks. Because you've got this explosive, high-powered offense with arguably the future face of the league at the quarterback position in Patrick Mahomes, taking on the best defense in the league. Like, you love these types of matchups. Like, is this going to turn out like it did a few years ago with Peyton going up against the Seahawks and the Seahawks pushed his stuff in? You know, how is it going to work? What I will say is this, is the Chiefs should be able to stop the run better than the Packers did in this game. Because Derrick Henry was rolling through the Patriots, rolling through the Ravens, and they ran up against the Chiefs, and it wasn't the same thing. Like, some of the things are not going to work. Now, granted, some of the things for the Chiefs aren't going to be as easy to get by with either, especially facing down that pass rush. Fascinating game, and I look forward to it. And I'm so glad that Green Bay didn't make it to the Super Bowl, not even just from a standpoint of not wanting to see the Packers win another Super Bowl, not wanting to see Aaron Rodgers play in another Super Bowl, not wanting to see Aaron Rodgers win another Super Bowl. Just from the sheer aspect of the best contrast of styles is the Chiefs and the 49ers. I would rather see that game because I feel like that has the chance to potentially be a classic. Where Chiefs and Packers, like, you feel like Mahomes and the Chiefs would win by 2+ touchdowns. I'm just saying. You can say what you want about the 49ers, a couple inches away in Week 17 from the whole dynamics of everything changing in the playoffs. So a lucky team, a team that's gotten some fortunate breaks and frankly made a lot of breaks for themselves. And it's interesting when you look at this 49ers team. I talked about it on Twitter. You know, when you look back at the 2017 draft, which is when John Lynch came into the fold and Kyle Shanahan was hired and so forth, this is a team that passed up on Mahomes and Watson in round one. Just think about that for a second. Passed up on Mahomes and Watson in round one to then take Solomon Thomas and Reuben Foster. So their 2 first-round picks in that draft ended up flaming out spectacularly. Traded a pick that ended up being Alvin Kamara, an early 3rd-round pick. And then spent 3rd-round picks on Ahkello Witherspoon and C.J. Beathard. Traded up in the 4th round to draft Joe Williams. And lo and behold, 3 years later, they're going to play in the Super Bowl. And you trade the 2nd-round pick for Jimmy G in that 2017 draft. You get George Kittle in round 5. You make the great move of signing Richard Sherman in free agency. You already had guys like Buckner and Armstead in the fold. Now, when you tank out last year, don't play well, don't do well, you get in position to draft Nick Bosa, and the whole dynamic of everything changes for that defense. You know, and even still, you've had some notable draft misses. Like, you know, I've never been that huge on Dante Pettis. Like, what did he ever do? I'm just saying. So they've had some hits, they've had some misses, but it's just incredible to see how the 49ers turned it around so quickly, because that performance in that 2017 draft would have buried a lot of organizations and a lot of lesser general managers, a lot of lesser head coaches. It absolutely would have. You get 2 first-round picks, you miss on them both. You miss on both of your 3rd-round picks, excuse me. You pass on 2 franchise quarterbacks in the 1st round to boot. Like, it's fascinating to see how John Lynch has orchestrated all this. As far as the Green Bay Packers go, was this the last real ride, the last best chance that they had? Maybe, maybe not. But, man, if they want to get in this position again, no more drafting dumb edge players like Rashawn Gary. Not dumb, literally, but like, was it just a dumb decision? You'd already signed the Smith brothers in free agency. What the hell are you doing? Meanwhile, you don't have any help for your franchise quarterback, your elite quarterback that you're paying all that money to. Just kind of speaks to the dynamics of how that team's going to work going forward. Will have to change, because this was ugly. And you think about Aaron Rodgers now, this is a 3rd straight NFC championship game that you can make an argument that he's kind of laid an egg in. Not good. But congrats to the San Francisco 49ers. Congrats to Jimmy Garoppolo. Congrats to everybody involved. We'll see what happens down in South Beach in a couple of weeks in the Super Bowl. Should be fun.